Good morning, welcome back to my channel. It's Saturday the 31st of May 2025 and it's around 9:20 in the morning. Kicking off with what's for the basket: Yorkshire tea bags, malty biscuit brew. I think these will be nice. I keep trying all the different biscuit flavours and the only thing it's doing is spoiling me when I make a normal cup of tea because I feel like there's something missing. So if I make a normal Yorkshire tea, I'm like, where's the biscuit? Okay, so they're for the basket. Word of affirmation this week is landing, L-A-N-D-I-N-G, which makes £9 for the Salvation Army Christmas Children's Toy Appeal. And we're doing quite well with that now. Right, why landing? Well, I'll explain that in a little while. I want to talk about my plan for the next year with Slimming World, because it's going to be Slimming World plus other stuff. And looking at where I am at the moment, and I got another maintain this week, which is good, because if I can eat the way I eat and do what I'm doing, i.e. going to the gym and lifting weights and not gaining water weight, then I'm really comfortable. I know the heavier the weights get, I could gain a bit of water weight around my muscle. That's fine, because it's not fat. So, perfectly normal and perfectly happy with that. So I'm looking at where I am today and where I want to be in a year's time. And today I am at 11 stone 4.5. And in a year's time, I'd like to be about 10 stone. Now, I'm not saying that's my goal or my target, because I don't have either and I don't want either. I honestly don't think I'll ever have a target weight at Slimming World. I don't want to have to be that precise. I don't want to have to live in a place where I lived for almost 5 years at Target, where I am continually watching, can't go out of Target, don't want to go out of Target. If I'm at the top end of my target, I want to be at the bottom end of my target. That doesn't work for me. I'm not a person who performs well under pressure. I need to be really relaxed and able to do my own thing. And my own thing may be very different to your own thing, because my life will be very different to your life. I have a busy life, I have an active life, and I have quite a quiet life at times. But my life is not the same as anybody else's because it's my life. And I don't expect anybody out there to do exactly what I do, because even if you did, you wouldn't get the same results as me. I'm 5'2", 68 years old, 69 this year, and when I was 20 years younger, 30 years younger, 40 years younger, whatever, the way I lost weight, the way I maintained a weight loss, whatever, was very different. It was still Slimming World usually, but it was very different to what it is today, because I don't lose weight today and maintain a weight loss eating diet food. I eat full fat. I don't eat low fat. I don't eat fat free. Because vitamins and things are fat soluble. I know that today. I didn't know that 10, 20, 30 years ago. I didn't know how I needed fat in my diet to improve my skin and my hair. I didn't know that the only way to lose weight was, no, I didn't word that wrong. I believed the only way to lose weight was deprivation, operation, starvation. I remember doing a diet once where I lived on coleslaw and cheese, nothing else. A quarter of coleslaw, a quarter of cheese, 3 times a day. How stupid can you get? Now I eat a variety of food, none of it low fat, none of it fat free. If I have a yogurt, it would be a yogurt with fat in it. If I have cheese, it's full fat cheese. I've tried low fat cheeses, things like that don't suit my body. But that's me, and that's where I'm at. So my plan for the next 12 months is to lose 18 pounds. I can do that at £1.5 a month, and that's great, because that does not feel like deprivation, starvation. It doesn't feel like I have to stress about it. I never want to stress about going to group. If I get a gain at group, I'll celebrate it, because it'll be because of something I did, not something anybody else did. And if I get a loss at group, I'll celebrate it. But I won't be upset if it's only £0.5. I'll be absolutely ecstatic because I want to do this permanently. I have dieted so many times over the years. I've gone up and down like a fiddler's elbow. I'm not doing that anymore. I've got a life now and I'm hanging on to it comfortably. So yeah, my plan for the next year is to lose £18. That comes with no stress, no pressure, no anxiety, and no dread of group, and no need to miss a group, and no need to, to fear a group. I just want freedom. For the next 2 weeks, we've got a gorgeous guy called Matt running our groups, and I'm really looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to a different impact and input from a different consultant. Not that there's anything wrong with my consultant, but they all bring something different to the table. That's good. There isn't one size fits all for Slimming World. You can follow it by the book like I do, which works for me, because I don't want to miss out. I'm not going to be a person who doesn't have a B choice, a person who only has one A choice, a person who has 2 sins. No way. If I can have 15 sins, 1 B, 2 A's, then in my book, why wouldn't I? So it's working. I love it. Okay, Joe, did write down a couple of headings. My mind's gone blank. So the next one was the aeroplane.
Yeah.
Right. A few years ago, the last time I flew, I went to San Francisco, and I flew from Heathrow to San Francisco. And I flew on a 747, which is probably the biggest plane I've ever been on. And I love taking off. But the best part of flying is landing. I love landing. I could just do that for the whole of the holiday. Let me take off and land every few hours. I'll be happy. One thing I was thinking about, and this is an analogy to losing weight and maintaining a weight loss, getting to target. When you take off in a 747, you're taking off at approximately 180 miles an hour. Now, you don't need to correct me if my figures are a few miles an hour out. I'm using this as an analogy and I'm ballparking it. You fly at around 550, 565, 570 miles an hour. And you land at about 160 miles an hour. Now, it's an 11.5-hour flight to San Francisco from Heathrow, and you're not even really conscious of the speed you're going. You just take it for granted. You're safe up there. It's a lot safer than being on the roads, isn't it? And I find Slimming World like that. When you start Slimming World, you go to group. That takes a bit of courage for some people. You find your group, you start to feel like you belong there. You need to read your book. A lot of people don't bother. Mine stays in the glove compartment in the car or something because I can't read it. But if you can read it, do read it, So you start to get familiar and you take off. And then you get to cruising altitude and you start to take it for granted and you start to play around with it a bit. But you're still travelling up there and you're on your journey. And you find your way, and your way might be to say sod it on weigh day. Your way might be to have whatever you want on a Friday night, depending on what day you get weighed. You find your own way that works for you. Your way might be that, there are certain times of the year if you've planned a holiday, there are a lot of people in my group who go away 3, 4, 5 times a year, and they may not follow Slimming World when they're away. Some of them do. Some of them come back with a weight loss. We're all individuals. We do it our own way. But the one thing I'm learning and the place I'm at the moment is about landing. I've dieted so many times over the years at Slimming World. I've been a target member at Slimming World for over 5 years. And what I've learned from experience and looking back on now is I cannot come into land at 560 miles an hour. I've got to prepare for landing, which is preparing to get to target or wherever the weight is you want to be. You might be like me, you might not want to target. You might say, this is my lifestyle, I want to be between 10 stone and 11 stone. I want to be between 13 stone and 14 stone. Whatever suits you. It's a personal achievement target. It's not set in stone. You're not told where your target should be. So I'm preparing for the next year to come into land. So I've changed my sins, the way I use my sins, gradually over my journey. My sins are savvy sins today, because that's what works for me. I would never spend sins on chocolate or crisps. Or we were talking in group this week about elephant's feet, which are shoe buns. And, you know, can you have an elephant's foot within your sins? Well, yeah, you can if you get it from Morrison's or Asda, 13.5 or 14.5 sins. Would you? You might, I wouldn't. Because I can't eat one shoe bun. I've got to have 2 or 3. That's the way I'm wired, so I stay away. One of my favourite things is pastel de nata. They're the little custard tarts from Portugal. Never been to Portugal, but my brother got me into them because they used to have them for breakfast in Portugal. So I go, and like if you go to Morrison's, I think they do them in boxes of 4. Asda do them in 2s or 4s. I think in Lidl you can buy them individually. But even buying them individually, my mentality would not be to buy 1. My mentality would be at least 4. And I can eat all 4 of them in 5 minutes. So what do I do today? Stay away from that. Because if I want to come in and land at Slimming World, somewhere around 10 stone or wherever I want to be, I can't eat like that anymore. It doesn't work for me. And do you know what? I don't miss it. So I'm preparing to come into land, and that landing could take me a year. Because I know the last time I landed at Target, when I was 8 stone 8, yeah, great achievement. But I love losing weight. And then, going back 10 years, I loved it even more. But you cannot lose weight all of your life unless you're prepared to lose it, put it on, lose it, put it on. That's bad for your health. So I'm having to realise this time, if I want to come into land like an aeroplane, I can't come in at 560 miles an hour like I've done in the past, because otherwise bump, bump on landing and I'm going up again. Which is what I've always done. I've bumped and landed so many times at a weight I thought I wanted to be, and then just sod it. Gone back to eating the way I always ate, with me, you know, multi-packs of everything. And in no time at all I can gain 5 stone. I've just proved that, going back to the start of this journey. I've had to change my ways, I've had to change my thinking, I've had to change my choices. But all of those things have been so good for me, so I don't regret any of them. So this time I want to come into land over a year, taking it steady, dropping £1.5 a month, that's my aim, gradually, so that by the time I do hit around the 10 stone mark, I know how to eat to stay around the 10 stone mark. Because I'm 10 years older than when I weighed 8 stone 8, and I think on me now it would look ridiculous. Because you don't just end up with a load of spare skin, you end up with a load of what they call skinny fat. Floats in the bath. Thank God we only have a shower. I don't have to upset myself anymore. Now I could say, right girls, I'm going to get to Target, then I'm going to go to Lithuania or Turkey or wherever, and I'm going to have all this extra skin removed. But you know what I've learnt over the years? That if I did that, I could then just grow some more. Nothing is permanent when it comes to that sort of thing. I have a friend who did that many years ago. She'd lost weight. She had the whole job. She had the tummy tuck, she had the legs done, she had the arms done, she had everything done, the boob job. And then she regained quite a lot of weight. And just because you've had the skinny fat removed, it does not stop it growing again. I don't want to do that. I'm accepting that the skinny fat, the stretch marks, whatever, it's all war wounds. And I deserve every bit of it, so I'm going to earn it. When we were out and about on Thursday, we had to go to a pharmacy the other side of our town to pick up an emergency prescription for a friend. And our pharmacy is a bit old-fashioned, it closes for lunch. So at 1:30 when it opened, we were standing outside. The pharmacist opened the doors and she said, "Hi Jane." I'm thinking, who are you? Anyway, I knew her. Her name's Caroline. 22 years ago, I went to Caroline every Thursday evening at her previous pharmacy, which is at the end of our road, and I paid £58 a week for something called accpeting. And I lost between 7 and 8 stone in about 7 months. Felt amazing. I hit my target. My target was 10 stone 4. I've always remembered 10-4. I always think that means okay. I'm okay. I was 10-4. I didn't stay there for very long because I got to my personal target there, around Joe's birthday. And I think he was possibly 10, maybe 9 or 10. And we took some of his friends out for a meal to the local harvester. And I'm being really good. This is the first proper food I've eaten for 8 months. What shall I have? Chicken salad. I hate chicken salad, but it's diet food, isn't it? For me, that constitutes diet food. It might be something you absolutely love. So I'm not knocking it, but I had a chicken salad. And then for the rest of that week, I ate like that. Salad, salad, salad and salad. And by the end of the week, I put on 5 pounds. Because I had been on less than 800 calories a day for over 7 months, my body just didn't know what to do with food. And over a period of 6 months, I put back on every ounce I lost. What a waste of 18 months or 16 months or whatever it was of my life. But meeting Caroline again after all this time face to face, my first thought was, oh, last time I saw you I was 10 stone 4. This time I'm 11 stone 4. You're going to think, wow, Jane, you haven't put all the weight back on. Forgetting that we regularly walked past the old pharmacy where she worked, and she would have seen me go back up and then down and then back up and then down, and calculating it, you know, over those number of years, I've probably lost and gained in excess of 20 stone. Isn't that awful? Isn't that frightening? Isn't that sad? Because I got up, after the lipotrim episode, I got up to 22 stone. There's a gain of 12 stone. Then at Slimming World, I lost 13.5 stone. Well, there we are, there's 25 stone. Then I put on 5 stone, oh God, 30 stone. Now I've just lost 30. I've gone up and down 34 stone in the last 22 years. It's not really a claim to fame, is it? It's a bloody big disappointment to myself. So it was really good in some ways meeting Caroline again, because it's made me face all of that crap. And the final thing I want to talk about today, this has been something I've worked on subconsciously, I think. I don't think I've specifically thought about it. I've done it because I'm a great thinker. I can think and I can plan and I'm very organised and I can do all that till the cows come home. It's doing it that's my problem. Right, I'm going back again quite a few years to when Joe was small, or before Joe was born even. My in-laws lived at Hutton Bushel, which is just inland from Scarborough. We lived just to the south of Nottingham. Most weekends, when we, you know, young, free, single, in our 30s or whatever, most weekends we used to motor up to see them. They had a lovely lifestyle, a lovely retired lifestyle. So we'd leave here first thing in the morning and I'd think about the journey. 125 miles from our house to theirs. How am I going to get there? I don't drive. Sitting in a car when you're blind is one of the most, it's nearly as boring as flying. It's one of the most boring things you can do. And back in those days, you know, we didn't have podcasts and YouTube and stuff like that. So you just sat there like a dummy. Well, down at the end of our road, next door to the pharmacy I was just talking about before, was a sweetie shop called Ruby's News. So I'd call there and I'd get a carrier bag full of junk, basically. I'm not going to list all the favourite sweets I had back then. You don't need to hear that. You get the gist, you don't need the list. But I'd pick up a bag full, a carrier bag full of rubbish. Now that was to get me the approximate 15 miles to a place called Ollerton, which is where we used to fill the car with petrol. Now we could have filled the car with petrol opposite the sweet shop, but I used to say to my husband, no, let's run to Ollerton, then we can put more petrol in. We've got enough then to get there and back. It used to cost us £10 back then to drive to Scarborough and back. I don't think what it would cost us now. So we'd get to Ollerton and Richard would get out and he'd put the petrol in. There were no pay-as-you pumps in those days. You went into the shop to pay and I'd say, oh, come in with you. And I'd get 2 carrier bags of crap. And I'd get rid of the empty packets in the carrier bag from the first part of the journey. And I'd fill my carrier bags with sandwiches and cake and chocolates and all the stuff you don't need to have listed. But have 2 carrier bags. That would get me from Ollerton along past Clumber Park to Blythe, which is where I'm originally from, which is where we'd get, we're on the A1 and we'd motor up to Tadcaster and then we'd go across to a place called Thornton le Dale, which is a beautiful little Yorkshire village. Streams along the side of the road, gorgeous place, chocolate box cottage and everything, really nice. But we'd stop there and there was a bakery and I'd get a pork pie, a handmade pork pie, and I don't talk that size, we're talking this size. And they always had ham off the bone and they'd make me a sandwich with it. And I'd come out with the best part of another carrier bag full, but I'd dump my other 2 empty bags in a bin outside the bakery. Richard will remember all this. And then we'd motor the last 12 or 15 miles to his parents. Then I'd shove that bag of rubbish under my seat, right? So we'd get there for about 11:30, and it was always time for sherry. So they'd all have probably a Amontillado, which is posh sherry, and I'd have a Harvey's Bristol Cream because I'm working class. I'd never had posh Amontillado and I don't like it, it's too dry. So we'd have a sherry and then we'd pile into a car, either ours or theirs, and we would drive maybe the best part of an hour to some posh restaurant up on the moors or somewhere. The Mucky Duck at Helmsley or wherever. Went to some gorgeous places with my in-laws, places I'd never dreamt of going as I grew up. And then we'd have a 3-course lunch. And when I look back on that and I think, good God Almighty, how did I eat all of that? And do you know what? When we drove back from lunch, and we get back about 4, 4:30, I'd be thinking, I wonder what's for tea. Because that's how I was, a compulsive eater who was never, ever, ever satisfied. Never, ever, ever full. I was always hungry because I didn't know what hunger really felt like. I didn't know what satiation felt like. I just thought I was starving and it didn't matter how much bigger I got. Once I was in a position when I wanted to lose weight. I was telling my mother-in-law about this on the phone and she said, look Jane, if it would help you, I'll sponsor you £10 for every pound you lose. And I remember saying to her, but I need to lose about 7 stone. She said, I don't care. If it would help you, I will sponsor you £10 for every pound you lose. Do you remember Richard? Because Richard will be watching this at some point. And I still couldn't do it. She was prepared to pay me £140 for every stone I lost. And I still couldn't do it. Because I wasn't in the right headspace. But today I am. Because today I'm doing it for me and there's no pressure. There's no expectation. All my goals are small ones. All my goals are realistic. And I come on here and I talk about my journey on Slimming World. Please don't ever measure yourself against me. Because you can probably do a lot better. I am not perfect. I am doing Jane. I don't want anybody to say, I could do better than her, I can't do as well as her, whatever. Do you. Find your way, find what works for you. And if setting a personal achievement target at Slimming World of, 13 stone, 15 stone, whatever, it depends where you started, it depends where you're coming from. At Slimming World, nobody is going to tell you haven't lost enough weight. It's your choice.
Oh, nearly at 25.
Yeah. But please, don't try to do me. And don't think that I don't have a life, because I do. I have got more freedom and a better life at the age of 68 because I'm not dependent on eating crap. And I can't tell you how freeing that is. Have a great week, everybody. We'll see you next week.